On a cool April night in Yerevan, when everyone else in the city was fast asleep, schoolteacher Lala Abgaryan headed to the airport to go somewhere she'd never been before: The Hague, the city in the Netherlands that has become synonymous with international law. For Lala, that red-eye flight was just the latest step in an ongoing journey to seek justice for her sister Gayane, an Armenian soldier who was tortured and brutally killed by Azerbaijani forces a year and a half ago. ՍիվիլՆեթ also traveled to The Hague and sat down with Lala for an exclusive interview. What moved her to come all this way from Armenia?
The Azerbaijani government's blatantly terroristic policy against Armenia must be called out and halted. But even if there are calls and condemnations everywhere, if they remain only calls, nothing will change.
Indeed, Lala was in The Hague not just to raise her voice against Azerbaijan, but also to take part in what would become a historic moment. In just a few hours, the Center for Truth and Justice, a US-based nonprofit, would formally ask the International Criminal Court to investigate Azerbaijan's leaders for genocide, marking the first such petition to the tribunal since Armenia joined earlier this year. Lala joined the CFTJ team in front of the court building to break the news.
The Center for Truth and Justice, I'm holding this up, has delivered a 100-page document with testimonial evidence of the ongoing genocide that's taking place in the Republic of Armenia. For the first time ever in Armenians' history, we are asking a court to actually take steps in order to stop the ongoing illegal occupation, the forcible deportations, the beheadings, the false imprisonment, the attacking and targeting of civilians and civilian infrastructure within the borders of the Republic of Armenia.
The petition refers not to Azerbaijan's military offensives in and around Nagorno-Karabakh in 2020 and 2023, but rather to atrocities CFTJ says were committed by the country's forces in the intervening years within Armenia itself. In a series of incursions in 2021 and 2022, Azerbaijan moved to occupy broad swaths of territory in Armenia's east and south, taking control of at least 83 square miles of land, according to a ＳիվիլՆեթ estimate. Those lands, including areas directly adjacent to nearly 3 dozen rural communities, remain occupied to this day. During those operations, hundreds of Armenian service members were killed, including Lala's sister, Gayane. Shortly after, graphic video footage of Gayane's mutilated body was widely shared on Azerbaijani social media pages, in what observers said at the time was a clear signal the perpetrators expected no accountability from officials in Baku. Gayane's killing, which CFTJ advisor Gayane Abgaryan described to the crowd gathered outside the court building, is just one piece of evidence that the group is urging the tribunal to investigate. A warning to our viewers, the description is graphic.
She wasn't just shot. Her legs and arms were cut off, her ears were cut off, her fingers were cut off, stuffed into her mouth, her eyes were gouged out, and stones were put in her eyes, and her shirt was open with her private parts, her breast, her genitalia exposed with the name Yashma on it that represents the Azerbaijani armed forces. And this is something that the world must stop and pay attention to.
Between tears, Lala also spoke to the crowd.
We're not talking just about Gayane. This is not just about my sister. It's also about the entire Armenian nation. This isn't just Gayane's story. This is the story of thousands of families who have been going through all of this for decades, and it's continuing. We must speak out about the atrocities and the terror that Azerbaijan government creates against Armenia. We need to speak out because if we don't speak out, if we don't achieve justice, history tends to repeat itself.
That, according to Viken Chaterian, a lecturer of international relations at the University of Geneva and author of several books on regional politics, sits at the core of what makes ongoing peace negotiation efforts between Armenia and Azerbaijan difficult. Peace presupposes the rejection of using violence as a means to solve problems, and one important component of that is the idea of justice. You cannot have peace without justice, he told ＳiվիլՆեթ. Now that CFTJ's petition is in the hands of the International Criminal Court, the tribunal is expected to open a preliminary examination of that evidence. After that, it can choose to open its own formal investigation into Azerbaijan's leadership. Based on the results of that investigation, the court could then move to charge Azerbaijani President Ilham Aliyev and his inner circle with genocide. In the meantime, Lala insists she will not give up on her quest to get justice for her sister. And so we asked her, what does justice mean to you?
Արդարադատությունը այն է իմ համար, որ
Justice for me is when people who kill or ethnically cleanse a nation are held accountable for their actions. That's what justice is all about.